Facebook at Adwa Television Ghana, and also on YouTube at Adwa TV underscore GH. Today on Adwa series, we are going to have conversation on women, leadership, and power. As Ghana being charitable enough towards women, and what is really expected of women in leadership positions in the mindset of Ghanaians, and largely to what are some of the experiences women are facing. And when you look at the protocols Ghana has been able to subscribe to, are we doing enough? I have with me Reverend Akua Ofori Boateng, Mrs. Mrs.
Awesome.
Aha. Yes, Reverend didn't invite me to a wedding, so me, I didn't know. I don't know where a new name now. But Mrs. How you doing?
I'm Reverend Akua. Let's stick with that.
Stick with that one.
Yes, please.
Reverend Akua is the director of programs of the Anglican Diocese of Accra. Reverend Akua is commissioner on the Electoral Commission's board. Reverend Akua is going to speak at the Bible Society Symposium.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday. You
Yes,
spoke there.
yeah, I did.
Wow. How did that one also go?
It was really good. Really good.
Okay.
I enjoyed myself. And it was a good opportunity to express very clearly to people what is the reality on the ground and tie it back to scripture to make us see that the things that we are supposed to be doing as a nation, as a people, when we tie it back to what God expects of us, we're not doing a very good job.
Okay. So human beings are just doing their things, thinking that probably God will whip us in line.
Well, yeah, I mean, the focus was on peace. And, when we talk about peace, we always think of peace in terms of we are not at war. If you ask anybody whether Ghana is at peace, they will say yes, Ghana is at peace because we are not at war. But if you look at the shalom of God, the shalom of God is not about not being at war. It's about an all-encompassing peace where you are at peace mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That is not the case of Ghanaians. If you listen to the news, some of the stories in Ghana where you hear people talk about my children are not being fed in school, the roads are terrible, I don't have electricity, I don't have water, and so on and so forth. It sounds like something out of the Gaza Strip. So, in essence, when we talk about shalom, the all-encompassing peace of God, we are not at peace. Maybe we'll not define it as war, as in we've taken up arms. But if a man can't feed his family, he's not at peace.
Yeah, that's Reverend Akua doing her own thing. She's a television sensation. She's on some sister networks doing a lot of TV stuff there as well. So she knows her stuff. How do you, as a person, resonate or identify leadership? What do you think is leadership as a person?
Well,
not what the books say.
Sure, I think leadership is the opportunity to influence the direction in which something goes, based on the knowledge you have, the skills you have, the information that you have available to you. So, in my view, that is what leadership is.
Okay, and coming from the point of view as a woman, do you think that the society has been able to encourage women to be in that place of influence to get things going?
I think in certain spaces they have. So, for instance, if you think back to, let's look at career, for instance. We've always sort of defined careers in terms of what are men's careers and what are women's careers. But there have been some clear breakthroughs. I mean, the priesthood, for instance, is one, where women were not in the priesthood in any capacity at all, anywhere. But even within our own diocese, we've seen over the last 10, 15 years where women have not only entered into the priesthood, but women have come into leadership in the priesthood. So it's quite significant what we've been able to accomplish. If you look at medicine, if you look at law, Annie Jaggi was the first woman to become a lawyer in Ghana. She's passed on now, but this was several years ago. So yes, there's depending on the space in which you look, there have been women who have come into pretty high positions, and the current Chief Justice is a woman, and nobody's balking at it like, oh my God, what's a woman doing there? So clearly we've been able to move in certain spaces. When it comes to truck drivers, brick workers, now there are certain spaces that because of the natural constitution of men versus women, men are physically stronger than women. It's just what it is. So these are spaces where you tend not to find as many women. But in terms of jobs that require mental capacity and the ability to learn and deliver, I think we've done a decent job as a nation of encouraging women to go into those spaces.
The encouragement
Thank
has
you.
really been there. But as a country, we've come to a point where we have been seeking to come up with a national policy affirmative action bill to see to it that we protect and reserve certain key portfolios for women to harness. There's been political conversations where people are of the view that can we leave district assembly portfolios for women only to look at? Can political parties go beyond and maintain at least sitting MPs positions in parliament? We've had 2 female electoral commissioners. We've had Charlotte Osei, we've had the current Jane Mensah working. We don't know what the next would be, if there's probably anything at all. As a country, you think that these are conversations we have to continue having, where dedicatedly we reserve, protect certain portfolios and roles for women, because people come at the Rwanda experience that they have a lot of majority of women in parliament, and then sanitation changed because women were in those roles.
Yes, I think the conversation absolutely needs to keep happening, because when we stop talking about it, we forget. The world has always been male dominated. And in my experience, I've not even found that men don't necessarily want women in positions. I just find that men tend not to think about it. So you realize that when it comes to a group of men have to make a decision about who to put in a particular position, they default towards another man, not necessarily because they don't like women, but a lot of times because they don't think about it. Sometimes, yes, the discrimination exists, and I'm not beating that down, but I also want to make the point that I don't think every man, because he votes for a man to be in a position of power, necessarily dislikes women or thinks that women can't do it. And that's why I think it's important that these conversations keep happening, so that it's always in the face of people that there are capable women. But to that same point, affirmative action must affirm the woman. Because what tends to happen with affirmative action, we've seen this happening in the US, not just with women, but with black people and so on, is that people just put in anybody. And so, look, we have to have a woman, we have to have a black person, we have to have a handicapped person. So let's find somebody and put them there. And what that ends up doing is it ends up tainting the whole gender or the whole group of people, because you may put in place somebody who is truly not capable,
for that
if not fit for that position. So yes, in as much as we should reserve these things, honestly, if at the end of the day there's a particular position and it's been reserved for women, and a woman who is qualified can't be found, it needs to be re-looked at. We can't force the issue and simply put somebody there because a woman has to be there, because it affects all of us. It affects all of us negatively if the person put in place, male or female, is not competent for the role.
I'm interested that it comes to it that do we have, because it seems that people that are even left to see to it that the affirmative action is even being promoted or pushed. So it has been lying on the tables and the shelves of parliament for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Don't you see the need that people, other women in other quarters, that you are at a place of influence in your church?
Yes.
There's another woman sitting somewhere who's also another place of influence at the Chief Justice. We have Nana Fremont Parry being the very first woman Chief of Staff.
Yes.
We have the First Lady. I recently, when she was being honored with a doctorate degree, said that she's looking forward to somebody being addressed as Her Excellency, the President of the Republic. Yes. A very long vision that she's having. Among other quarters is there. Don't you think that it's high time we have that collective stakeholder conversation where we draw all these women, powerful women, potential powerful women, and alike to one room? Let's have conversation on how best we can garner our ways into these places of influence so that people will know what our capabilities are and will be put at places where we qualify and deem fit to be.
I think those conversations are happening. There are several women who've put together forums and groups. Women meet constantly in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, to talk about women's issues, to talk about how to make sure that the girl child does well, to make sure that women are put in places of influence. And all of us as women who tend to be in powerful positions, we know each other. We talk with each other, and we're trying to find ways to bring other women, qualified, competent women on board. I think a lot of times it doesn't come to the fore because the media doesn't put it to the doesn't bring it to the fore. It's not talked about in a. It's almost like a bunch of chicks met, and the men tend to diminish it a little bit by making it seem like it's not powerful enough because there were not men involved. But I also think that that is something that as women we can leverage because there are many, many, many men who truly believe in the empowerment of women and in the leadership of women. Many men are raised by their mothers and they have seen the impact of a woman in their life, the impact of their wife in their life. So I think that these things are happening. The media needs to do a better job of capturing these things, of highlighting them, of pushing it as more than a bunch of women met last week and chatted, and so now let's move on and talk about more pressing issues. And I also think that men who are he for she's, men who really are interested in the empowerment and the advancement of women should be engaged more to be able to advance some of these causes.
But advancing the causes of women leadership then comes to a very word that people try to fight with by way of definition is feminism. People think that feminism is people fighting for the rights of women. Feminism is people seeing things in the view of a woman point of view or a female point of view. Feminism is where we put in women in a lot of roles to play. But in its true sense and its relevance in a Ghanaian contextual society, what really should feminism be?
Feminism, in my view, is about equality. The Bible talks to us about that when we are in Christ, there's no male and there's no female. They are just human beings who are capable or are not capable. So feminism is really about trying to take away the issues of imbalances and inequalities. But feminism is also pushing the idea that let's look at the strengths of a woman. There's something about being female that is brought to the table that doesn't come to the table when it is male. And it shouldn't be ignored. It shouldn't be diminished. It shouldn't be changed. You know, it's almost like when a person is in a position of power and that person is a woman, that somehow anything that woman does that projects that she's a woman should somehow be quelled because, you know, we're not coming to do women's fellowship here. We're not coming to do women's things here. So I think what feminism is really trying to push is the fact that women are different, but we are equal. You get it? We are different. We are not men. We're not trying to be men, but we are equal. We are capable. We can do the things that need to be done. We may do it in a different way. We may approach it differently. We may think of it differently, but the end result will be success.
Let me borrow a word from Efo Kojoma Ogbe's book, In the Chest of a Woman. That the last words in the first leg said that in the chest of a woman is an extension of breasts. But beyond that is a flaming desire to use power. What is hindering our very own Ghanaian society, heavily men dominated, to see women beyond what the physique is?
You'd have to ask a man. I think there's a lot of fear.
There's a lot of engagement with men.
I think part of it is fear. Some men are not quite sure what the end result will be. I also think that there's been some precedent, but again, it's not always being treated fairly. We've had very problematic leaders, male leaders. We've had problematic female leaders. I'm talking globally. But somehow when a female leader is problematic, it is because she's a woman. When a man is problematic as a leader, then we ascribe, it is because, you know, he's a narcissist, he's a this, he's a that. There's some real scientific reason given to it. But you never hear people talk about, this woman is this way because she's a narcissist. It's just because she's a woman. And so it's sort of bucketed as a fault or a failure even before you have started. So I think there's just a sense of maybe men are afraid that women have been oppressed for so long that if they have power, they'll go out there and kill all the men, or they'll go out there and oppress all the men themselves. So like I said, I think you have to ask a man, but my sense is that it is fear of the unknown, of what will happen when a woman is truly powerful.
Pretty sure, I'm sure probably in our next series on women and leadership, we have to bring the man here to respond to this particular question. But Rev, let's look at thriving societies, development, among other things. How, in what sense will the representation of women in leadership and power influence development in our Ghanaian society?
Well, if you think about the composition of human beings in Ghana, there are a few more women. I think it's 52% to 48%. So if that is the population, that's who we are ruling. But then the leadership doesn't represent that same population, then it begs the question, why? Why is it that we don't have the right type of representation? When women are properly and accurately and equally, fairly, not equally, but fairly represented in leadership, you find that the thinking, the ideas that come, all benefits the totality of the society. Otherwise, you find that the way a man thinks is very different from the way a woman thinks, and none of it is positive or negative. I'm not going to go into men are from Mars and women are from Venus, none of that stuff. But we are different. We think differently. But that difference was never designed, I don't believe, to work against each other. It has always been designed to work with each other so that we can have a whole. So when it is lopsided, that is when you have decisions that are made in society that fail, decisions that are made in laws and circumstances that are implemented in society that are not quite successful because it hasn't been completely thought through by both sides. So when women are in power, then the advocacies, the decisions, the laws, the rules, the things that come up are thought of for the whole of the society and not just half of the society, the men.
My next question is not anywhere in the scripts. If you were to be president of Ghana, what would you have done differently?
I don't know. I'm not president of Ghana. I really don't know.
If you were president of Ghana, like for once, like one day you are president of the Republic of Ghana, what would you have done differently? No, I don't want to put the contest in the woman point of view, but in the Reverend Akua point of view, if you were to be president of the Republic of Ghana, what would you have done differently?
I think one of the challenges with Ghanaians is our mindset. And I don't know if a president can change the mindset of a people, but it is the place we would begin. I look at countries like Rwanda, I look at Singapore, and for instance, in Singapore, when you ask the common man why there are so many trees, they'll tell you that the trees is what holds the land. And I find that a lot of us as Ghanaians we haven't really come to a place where we are all in agreement on what it is that is beneficial for Ghana. It's not even about making money or any of those things, but just looking at this land that we've been given. What is our mindset towards the benefit of the land? So if that is possible, I would do that, but I don't know if that's possible.
Awesome. You have just 5 minutes. Let's see what happens with the 5 minutes. How, as a woman in leadership roles, what are some of the pertinent or peculiar challenges that comes to you? That's something making you feel like, is it because I'm a woman that is why these things are coming up? But what are some of the challenges that women you've had engagement with in key roles do share with you that are some of the challenges they come across?
I mean, they're the things you would expect. So I don't want to call it sexual harassment, but it is the sort of being hit on. But I think a lot of that
as a priest too?
As a woman.
Quiet.
But I think a lot of that just revolves around the fact that it's the way of the world. Men chase women. And so I suppose, yes, it is because you're a woman that you are being pursued in this way or viewed in this way. And so you sometimes find yourself having to sort of bring people back to your position as opposed to your gender. So that happens. I'm not sure if that happens to men, because normally women don't chase men. I'm not quite sure if that is a situation that men tend to experience. You also tend to find that when you get upset about something, you know, when a man gets upset, it is interpreted as strength, as authority, as, you know, taking the bull by the horns. When a woman gets upset, it's like she has lost control.
Yeah, she's been emotional.
She's being emotional, you know. And so those are some of the things where you have to draw people back to, you know, being upset is a human condition. Being passionate about something is what human beings do when they are feeling a particular way. And it should not be diminished into, oh, you're being emotional, as opposed to you're being assertive, you're being driven, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
In moving forward from all these challenges, how can we as a society identify women for their full potentials, harness it, and value them in our societies for what they hold, what they can offer, how blossom we can have a society with women in that influential portfolios beyond the natural order of men just going to chase women?
You are doing it. You have shows where you highlight women. I've seen you do that many times. Kojo Rana has a program where he does the Emmy man. An Emmy woman equivalent would be nice, you know, to highlight the accomplishments of women. There are people who are running various things, but, you know, it's like Christ said, you can't have a light and hide it under a bushel. So the accomplishments and the achievements of women should be put out there by all the platforms that have the opportunity to do so. And the more we keep we just can't stop talking about this. We need to keep talking about it. And over time, just like now, nobody balked when we had a Supreme Court justice being a woman, when we had an electoral commissioner being a woman. Over time, people will balk less and less and less, and it will just go away.
I was having a conversation with my folks somewhere, and we were like, it is women who badmouth fellow women. Women are their own enemies. It's women who will give details about fellow women. You'll be standing there with a lady, another lady will pass. Maybe I'm just seeing a lady with a shoe. A lady is like, should be a chair. So it's the fellow lady who is able to determine that, oh, it should be a chair. She make a be in your face. But I, as a man, I'm not seeing it.
You know, men gossip more than women. I've had similar conversations where I've just seen a guy walking by and the guy, oh, look at this guy. So this one there, I think is a human condition. What I will say is that it is women who raise bad sons. Every woman who is being abused by a man, that man was raised by a woman. And it is women who raise men to not respect other women. So if there's something we are going to do, let us raise our sons right.
That we have to put a lot of concentration on the male child too.
On the male child.
Like we are living in a society where it's only maybe the girl child that means we see it most vulnerable. We have to put a lot of attention and focus on the girl child, and really neglecting how we put together to bring the male child.
Boys are not being brought up anymore. Everybody just works on the premise that, oh, they are boys. This is how boys are. They'll be fine. But I think we need to start paying attention again. Without neglecting the girl child, let's pay attention to the boy child and raise the boys right.
Finally, how can women strengthen solidarity and collaborations for a better Ghanaian society for all?
I think through mentorship. It's one of the big things God is asking you to do. Exhibit the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and He certainly will complete all those things that He has begun in you. God bless you.
So we have Benjamin Ashikoti Ashi. Oh, what's the name again?
Ashi. I blessed Ashi this morning.
This morning, yes. Today happens to be his birthday too. He's of the Cathedral Church of the Most Holy Trinity. Happy birthday to you, Benjamin Ashikoti. Happy birthday to you too as well. And all those who are celebrating their birthday out there. And I'm surprised that somebody walked into the studio and then the light was flickering. Thanks for being part of today's show. My name is Pepsival. Have a good day.